Ladies and gentlemen, welcome this evening to the tax revolution. Is that what I said on that robocall? I mean, some people were saying that was a pretty good robocall for those that got it. You liked it? All right. We liked it. Excellent. So what we're going to start out with, here's our agenda. If you would all please rise for the opening prayer, the pledge, and then we're going to have some opening comments by Pastor and myself. So, Pastor?
Okay, let's pray. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord God, as we gather here this night, Lord, gathered in thy name, you've told us not to lean, in Proverbs 3:5, not to lean to our own understanding. And boy, we've seen what mess men can make when they do that. But to call upon you and to lean upon your understanding. And so we're here tonight, Father, asking that you would give us wisdom and direction, Lord, that we do what you would have us to do to bring this nation back to the way that you gave it to us, a good nation, one nation under God. And I thank you, Lord, for choosing us. We know that this is the day that you've talked about in your words. You told us that in the last days, in that evil day, and we're seeing everything, we're seeing it here, just exactly the way you described it in your word. So give us wisdom, direction, give us the energy, the courage, Father God, and bind us together, Lord, if we know that one can chase 1,000 and two 10,000. These things we ask. And Lord, we ask that you bless everyone here, Father God, and Lord, and that you bless them with traveling mercies tonight on the way home too. But these things we ask in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Steve, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're just going to do a couple quick comments that I'm going to have, and then I'm going to give it right over to the pastor. One of the things that I want everybody to know, and what we'll do better on, this is not the Tom Show. We do have several board members, and we have an advisory board that gets together usually once a month, but we need some help. So as you think of people, and because a lot of you folks come to the meetings regularly, and we have some new people as well, but the robocall went out to 293 people except for Robert. He wasn't on it. And so 293 people, the robocall went out, and then yesterday the reminder email went out to 312 people. So the disparity in the two is I don't have everybody's phone number. So in that, you know, that's where I had seats put up for, I don't know, 70 or so seats, because I know that, you know, we necessarily don't pack the room out. But it would be nice to, especially in topics like we're going to cover today and what we're going to cover next week. So what I'm asking is that, you know, reach out to your neighbors. We'll continue to get the robocall out. We'll continue to, you know, get the newsletter. Will come out first, and then a reminder, because Skip will remind me to send out a reminder, and you know, kind of work that way. So that'll happen. But you know, as you talk to your neighbors in the county, that's really, really critical. We have 2 board seats that we still need to fill. We need to fill a treasurer's seat and the secretary seat. So those are 2 board seats. So if you know anybody, please help with that. And then we have committees to fill. One of the things that the Republican Party won't do, and quite frankly can't do, is to vet candidates. So an election committee, in my mind, is like the #1 committee, as well as there's other committees. You can see what they are in the bylaws. That's on the website. So at the Geauga County Tea Party website, go there, look at the bylaws, and you'll see what the committee structures are as well. But I need some help. The board needs help. A lot of you have put a lot into it over time. Please reach out to some of the other folks that you know, give them a little bit of a shake and say, hey, you know what? To make this thing work and to fill our butts in these seats instead of our butts in the seats at home so that we can be active, you know, we need to reach out to those other folks. Pastor,
All right, yeah. Before I get into this, how many of you here knew Chaplain Harry Richardson? He was the chaplain at the jail for about 20 years down in Geauga County Jail. Well, Harry just passed away last night. And so,
Be on camera.
you want me to be on camera?
Sure.
Okay.
If you step closer, you can, people. the
There's a
camera-
reason I've been on radio for 46 years and not television. Anyhow, so say a little prayer for Harry's family. Harry served the county out here for over 20 years as the chaplain. All right, here's what I want to talk about tonight. We have, as you see in your chairs, this fundraiser for Geauga County Right to Life. Well, let me just tell you something here. When God gave us the divine institution of human government, he made 5 points very clear in that. The very first point was to whom it was given, and that you find in Genesis chapter 9, verses 9 and 10, verses 12 and 15 and 16. To all mankind for perpetual generations, an everlasting covenant with all living beings. The second point, though, was the intent. That was simply man was to govern for God. But the third point was the most important point. It was the entire purpose of human government. And when I say that, I mean real government, real human government. You know, not what we have today. We have a very, very corrupted form, unfortunately. Even the best is not. And the entire purpose of human government was to preserve the image of God, that being man. That was the entire purpose. And that's what Geauga County Right to Life is all about. Since 1974, we've saved over 24,000 babies from abortion. That's a lot of people. A lot of them have children of their own. But one of the things that I've noticed here, as the president of the Tea Party, is that we have a lot of the members of Geauga County Right to Life come here, but we don't have very regular members of the Tea Party showing up at our events, and that's not right. That shouldn't be. And so, what we're having here on the 16th over at the warehouse in Solon is an ice cream social. It's a fundraiser, and it's for desserts, but it's much more than that because it's a strategy meeting, like we have once or twice a year. We're going to have a number of the local politicians or statesmen. We don't want to be called politicians. And some of those that are running for judge or another. We're going to be there from all over the state coming up with a strategy. Some of you may have realized that there was a few things about this primary that didn't seem quite right. How many of you have that feeling? Well, it's not just happening here, and we really need to we got to get ready before November, believe me, or we can really get hurt. So that's what it's all about. So I would love to have you all come out and support us and be a part of us and give your input because, folks, you know, it's later than you think. We got to really get ready for what's coming. So that's all I had to say.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Pastor. So definitely, let's make sure that we support this effort. It's been great every time that I've attended for over a year now, since I've been back into Geauga County, Ohio, and all of that. It's great to see what that effort is. And please reach out to, one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the other churches that may be out there necessarily try to communicate to them, but for some reason those other pastors, parishioners, church leaders necessarily don't invite or let their folks know of what's happening in Geauga County for Right to Life, even though they say they're for Right to Life. That it's interesting not to see the support. Okay, so real quick, we're going to go through this. I'm not going to take you through all the agenda. It's been up there long enough for you to read, so I'm going to jump right to the end and say the June meeting, Skip is going to give us his full-blown presentation on NOACA, property rights, how it's affecting us, not just from regionalization, but specifically on what it's driving to in Geauga County, I believe. Right, Skip?
Yes.
Yes, that was good. Thank you, Skip. All right. Because of a lot of things I have going on family-wise, I haven't seen a lot of my family for 3 years. My dad's turning 90, and we're having a big blowout at the end of July and all of that. And then family being what it is not going to leave right away. So unless somebody else wants to lead the meeting, that's why I said it's not necessarily a Tom show, but unless somebody else wants to do something for July and August, there's no meetings for July and August. So, with that, let's see if this bugger will work. Turn it on, Tony. There we go. All right, so 3 weeks ago, right, Brian, we went to and there were several others of us from the Tea Party, went down to the We the People convention. Before I jump into this, Matt, you got 3 minutes. Otherwise, we're going to roll, baby. It took you half a minute to get here. Now you got 2 minutes.
Hey everybody, how are you? Hey, Matt Lynch won an election. That's a sentence I've been longing to say for quite a while, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate all your help. We had some disappointments that night, I'm afraid to say, in some places, but we did very, very well, and it's because of you that we did so well. You know, some people think that I'm already elected to be a judge. Not the case. I was called judge tonight, people keep calling me judge. I'm not a judge, and I won't be a judge unless I can win in November. So remind people that we still have to be active. And I know it's so easy to get worn out, and you know, I think part of the reason we have a little bit of a smaller crowd tonight is because people sort of have election weariness, right? But I wanted to just take a moment, and I pass these out to talk to you about how important your groups are. We won, and not my primary, in all 5 counties. All 5 counties. And this is the breakdown of the 5 counties. And do you see anything distinctive among these 5 counties? I got a percentage there about the margin of victory. It was consistent in all 4 of the counties except 1. Trumbull County, I won by 3%. I'd be happy to win by 1%. But in all the others, it was consistent 14%, and Trumbull 3%. I thought, why is that? What? Because I spent a lot of time in Trumbull County. Why did I own? Why? I mean, if it would have been varied all around, I would have said, well, it was other factors. But what was missing in Trumbull County?
Tea Party.
Exactly right. You were missing in Trumbull County. In every one of the other 4 counties, there are liberty groups that work. There's a Lake County Liberty group. There's a Heritage group also in Lake County. There's the Ashtabula Conservative Club. There's the Portage County Tea Party that Tom Z runs, of course, the Geauga Tea Party. And even though you may say, oh, there's not that many people here tonight, are we really involved? Your actions in your emails, on Facebook, talking to your friends, makes a huge difference. And it, in this case, made an 11-point difference in the results. I'm telling you, that's what made the difference. The Tea Party, the Liberty groups make all the difference in the world. So I don't want you to be weary about working in elections. What you're doing makes a difference. And to continue to make a difference, we have to continue to stay engaged. I'll be working hard all through the summer and fall, and I need your help to get there in November. Thanks so much, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, man. And what we're going to do is we're going to show that value proposition, how valuable the Tea Party is in the next slide. We're not going to belabor all of this. We're going to go really, really fast because I want Brian to have a lot of good time. So the whole thing on the reset button, here was the agenda, and it was, you know, pledge, prayer, opening statements by a lot of people had a chance to get up and speak and express what's going on. Should we, as in this was a gathering across the state of Ohio of a lot of the different citizen/Tea Party groups. 180 different Tea Party leaders showed up down in Newark to have this conversation, okay? So very, very interesting to see. Should we remain in the Republican Party? Should we join another political party? Should we start a new political party? Everybody then had to have lunch. And from there, what should we focus on? What should we do? The short order of the whole thing was when in those discussions, especially around the Republican Party, the component is, which is happening in every county. And right now, it is extremely important in Geauga County. We just elected a whole new Central Committee. And some of the people were re-elected back into Central Committee. There's things that are happening in the State Central Committee. In every Central Committee across the state of Ohio, we still have large establishment infusion, okay? And people were complaining about that. That was the reason one of the reasons for this meeting was to bring to bear that, inside of the only mechanism by which we can elect people, we still have an extremely strong component of, whether you call it establishment, whether you call it the Kasich breed, whatever you want to call it, their influences are still extremely strong all the way into the county level. One of the things that Ohio does not have that other states have are county platforms. Some counties have a platform, it's up to the county. So from an accountability perspective, what do you do with that? But right now, most every county, Geauga County included, is getting ready to elect a new chair. And there's some things, I think that's happening really, really fast, like the meeting is supposed to be like on Monday or something like that. So I highly encourage everyone to take and exercise your citizen right and get a hold of your elected representative, first elected representative being your precinct committee person. And in that precinct committee person, encourage them to take a look at who is the most conservative Tea Party candidate that is running for officers within our county. Okay? And you need to find that out on your own as well. There's some people here that can help you with that. Steve can help you. Skip can help you. Mike, you can talk to them and find that out if you don't know. But find out from your precinct people that you need to be talking to them anyway. And then, there's some stuff that's going on that let's vote. And if you're participating in the party, then it's your citizens' right to participate according to what you believe that organization should look like, because that's the only place you're going to get candidates running through, okay? So that was a very interesting conversation, and the end result of that conversation was, those that choose to stay in the Republican Party, that's the only place we're kind of stuck with. Constitutional Party isn't going to get anywhere, and trying to form a new party costs way too much money. And I'm involved with groups across the whole U.S. that are trying to look at developing a new party, and everybody's running up against the same thing. You need like $200+ million to start a new party to be effective. So that's kind of where that went. This one, I think, is very pointed. Let's see, he's trying to start a new party. Bert launches the bipartisan party, not being stupid in either direction. So I thought that was kind of entertaining that they had that up as well. Let's see, hit the button. Should we focus on issues instead of candidates and party politics? Why would it be better? This ensued another long conversation. How would you, help check the different things? What would you do? How would we look? Independents have no value proposition based on what happened in the state of Ohio. So you can be an independent, but you're never going to get on the ballot as an independent because of the way that the law has been changed up. So what's our strategy? What's our focus? The real conversation drove to being back with the Tea Parties were and what we have done. Again, citizens exercising their rights inside the political party is critical, but at the same time, where we won a lot of things is on issues. Constitutional amendments, here's some that are very interesting. We'll get these up on the website that you look at. Some of the ones that are going to be what Brian talks about a little bit here is this one. Wait a minute, homeowners freedom amendment. Homeowners would pay no property taxes after age 65. Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? Anyway, we'll see some of that in a minute. Amendments to make English official language. He'll even talk about that, what the cost is on all this multilingual stuff. Now, here's some other ideas that we went through. The other ideas, would we better be off pulling our money to have lobbyists down there that we as citizens. Brian's going to talk about his organization, and I'll leave him to introduce what we launched 2 weeks ago with the Liberator Network. The idea is to facilitate something like that. So that's real interesting as well. We can have additional conversations about that. Would it be better, forget about the politics and just, do what the enemy does, the left does, and just go to court? Well, we don't have the money to do that. They got deep pockets. Nobody wants to give any money to jump on that, and I don't know what the value is. Liberty Camp, sadly, I will say that the Geauga County Liberty Camp is not going to happen this year. Heartbreaking. But we could not find enough campers, and many of you know I portray Samuel Adams at that camp. Skip is the good old TJ, Thomas Jefferson. So, and there's others of us, Peg, and a number of us, faces that I see here have participated in Liberty Camp, Dick, and it's just not going to happen. But yet that's such an influence that we would have. And again, this is reaching out to the churches who you go try and talk to pastors in churches and they just blow it off like, well, except pastor, like, oh, well, I don't know, you know. Vacation Bible camp is important, but so is this. It's a different view. Let's see, fighting for, you should go work for the government. Yeah, well, you get good benefits, you know. Anyway, should we do, you know, what else should we do? So those were some ideas that were thrown out there. All of the people went away with these questions and ideas, and the intent was, go think about it. And let's mull that over, start working what we're going to do during this campaign season. How are we going to support all the various activities that we need to for candidates, and then start working towards ballot measures. For those that were at the Liberator Conference 2 weeks ago, our Dan Johnson, our keynote speaker, you guys missed, 24 years old. This guy is phenomenal. He's bringing legislation for Ohio. So he's getting he got legislation passed in Arizona, Hawaii, Idaho. He's got 2 bills that are working in California right now, and it's how to better use our tax dollars. And they just wrote a bill that within the next month or 2, they're going through a review on it, legal review and everything, and then they're going to be bringing it into Ohio on how we can bring that into Ohio as well. Phenomenal stuff. 24-year-old kid, you know, I call him a kid, but a young man, just a brilliant young man.
What did you say his name was?
Dan Johnson. We'll have the videos up eventually when we get the Liberator Network up, and then all of the videos, his keynote, everything that happened at the Liberator Network will be up on video. So what young Mr. Lynch was talking about, your value proposition, I'm not going to try and take and run through this, but this goes back to a case study on 2012. What happened with Mitt Romney spent $18.50 per vote, and the Ohio primary is packed, did an additional $11.50, so you're talking about $30 a vote. Total spending in Ohio was $13 million. Rick Santorum campaign did $650 per vote. Okay, his PAC came in with another $300, total of $950 per vote. Okay, so then it went on to looking at total spending was like $4,250,000. Romney won 38 to 37 over Santorum after a hit piece. All right, Gingrich and Paul got those numbers. The spending difference between what happened here with Romney and what happened with Santorum was a difference of that $9,575,000. That was you. That was sweat equity. That was everybody getting out, working for Santorum. So, to Matt's point, people here, people in the Tea Party, don't understand that there's a real dollar value that you hold. It's not just your vote, but everything that Matt said that you do has a dollar multiplier value proposition for those candidates that we support that have our values. So I thought that that was just really interesting. Tom Z did a really great job on putting all these slides together. I'm going to take you real quick through some digital media stuff and what we're doing. You know, as you've heard Scott Anderson talk about, and those at the Liberator Network heard him talk, and that we're plugged in. I was a telecom executive, and I talked about being plugged in back in 2000 at ISPCon, which was one of the largest internet development. I wrote internet business plans and developed internet businesses inside the telecommunications environment, so I understand this stuff in detail. And you know what? You're plugged into digital socialism. And I just put up on the web an article called "Who's Your Master?" You know, who is your master of the universe? Who is that? And the addiction of socialism and social media. So you can find that out there. But here's what we're talking about, is that about the secure social media. We're launching that. Liberator Network, Liberator Media, I'm sorry, LLC is a company that I started about 2 months ago, because being a telecom type person, I'm saying we have to have that alternative. So I started a company, and we're launching the network, is the eaglefirepost.com, and it holds to the principles of our founders based on the national monuments or the forefathers. You can see that Kirk Cameron did the movie Monument. If you've seen that, if you haven't seen it, I suggest that you do. It goes back and it talks about those core principles of our founders. So we launched that network based on that, and it's to keep your information private. And the only way to do that without selling your information, like Facebook and all the others do, is to take and make it subscription based. What it really comes down to is that this evening, I think, Kath, there's a sign up on there, back there. If you give me your information, I'll send you an email as to how to get onto that. It's going to be a 10-day test drive, and then the subscriptions are like, you know, it really comes down to $5 a month, $60 a year. But right now, the way we have to bill it out is $15 for 3 months, $30 for 6, and $60 for the year. So it's an alternative. It's an option that's there if you're sick and tired of your privacy going away. And there it is. Eagle Fire Post is the independent network. Right there, that is the website for it. That's the URL. Everybody that goes to it and tries to sign up has to be approved by the administrator, so there's a security piece where your sign up is reviewed even before you get onto the network. So it's something interesting, something different. I'm doing some self-promo. I said I wouldn't do that, but I am, because this is important stuff. So I've been doing this seminar for over 9 years. Finally got the whole workbook, because everybody's been asking for it. It's a small book, as you can see. It's included in the price of the seminar. You can look at the book afterwards if you're interested. It's going to be at the Chardon VFW on the 23rd of June. It's $50, $40 for senior students and veterans, and the book is included in that. So just real quick, here's something that will be of interest for you. If I can get the cursor there. Close your ears. So that's just a little quick promo on that. So I hope you find it. I did that one down in Phoenix, Arizona, is where we developed that from. And Brian, you, sir, are going to be on as soon as I get you properly plugged in. You want to test that?
Can you hear me?
interesting one. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Good, good, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone coming tonight. My name is Brian Massie. I'm a resident of Concord Township. Been there 12 years. Just an average citizen. Thank you.
Is that too loud?
No.
I never thought of myself as an activist, but I started years ago. I knew something was wrong with our country. I didn't know what it was. I listened to a Chris Ann Hall in Wycliffe talking about the Constitution and the Bible. I then said, there are two things I don't know about. I don't know about the Constitution, and I don't know about the Bible. I'm a Roman Catholic, I've never read the Bible. Something's wrong. So what I did is I went headlong into learning about the Constitution, joined the John Birch Society, attended Constitution classes, and attended 4 Bible classes a week. I'm now down to 2 Bible classes. After doing that for several years, that's when I came up with the realization we're not only in a cultural war, we are in a spiritual war.
Amen.
It's good versus evil.
Amen.
So how did I get into this latest thing? Losing the American Dream, one tax levy at a time. I wrote an article for the News Herald and they published it. And I actually got emails from people. They were saying, Brian, what can you do to help me out? Here, I'm just an average citizen. One guy said, I'm 83 years old, I'm a widower. I can't afford my taxes. I got a pension, I got a little bit of savings, but not much. I then knew that we were onto something. And I don't know how many times I've talked about property taxes, but no one's been able to prove me wrong. Local activism. I had a thirst for knowledge. In Lake County, I went to virtually every meeting that I could find, whether it was the Land Bank, the Port Authority, commissioners' meetings. They know Brian Massie in Lake County. I'm not sure they're real happy. I don't get many Christmas cards, but so be it. What started me down this rabbit hole was basically looking at my own individual property taxes. I said, this thing just keeps going up. So what I did is I went to the Lake County Auditor's office and said, I would like 10-year comparison. 2000, at that time I think it was 2007 versus 2017. And I said I want to buy political subdivision because I want to be able to figure out how much I'm paying for the parks and individually on each line item. I looked at the numbers, it was 42%. My taxes went up 42% in the 12 years, or 11, 12 years that I was living in the house. And I said to myself, well, if that continues, I'm going to price myself right out of my house. So I used that to continue on this journey. So, went to the auditor. I went to the Ohio Tax Equalization Board too. I couldn't get all the answers from the local auditors, and the young lady, very nice, she said, well, Brian, I tried to get her to explain the tax reduction factor and HB 920. She says, Brian, you're just going to have to trust us. I said, those days are over. Over. So she gave me the number of the state tax equalization board. I called them up. Developed a phone friendship with them. Very nice people there. And they said, Brian, you wouldn't believe all the money that is paid by these lobbyists to the local, the politicians at the State House. They've got lobbyists for everything. But what they don't have, lobbyists for citizens. So when I heard that, I said, well, that sounds like a pretty good hook. So that's when I formed that group, Lobbyists for Citizens. And I've gathered a lot of people in Lake County, and I said, I'll develop the website. I'll do the posting. If anybody wants to write, we'll write. And what we're going to do is we're going to educate Lake County citizens what's happening in their county. Not only on property taxes, mainly property taxes, but anything else, any meeting that we go to. Let's tell them. There's a social media page called Nextdoor. I don't know if anybody's got Nextdoor here in the area. Very powerful tool.
It was, I live in the place called, it's next door, it's called Nature Preserve, north and south. There's 1,400 people that are signed up for that next door. So what I did is I tested that out. I wrote about the property taxes in the local school district, maybe Riverside School Districts, and I said, the pricing is out of our homes. That immediately, it was just pages after pages where people were very concerned. And some weren't very nice, but some, at least we got their attention. So then I really knew that we've hit on something. So I was determined, that's my mission. I have no agenda. I'm not running for office. I'm not looking for money. All I am doing is trying to educate people. If anybody wants to listen, I share on the website. I do all the research. I share it with everybody. You can print it out. I even show my calculations. I say, this is how I got that number, so you can test it. What factors influence real estate taxes and what actions can be taken? It doesn't do any good if we just say, okay, we got a problem, what do? Do we do something about it? I got tired of going to meetings and just being a social event. I said, I'm not going to any more meetings unless we've got an absolute agenda that we're going to solve a problem. What I've tried to do for the presentation, I tried to find some information on Geauga. There is a website, Center for Community Solutions, a treasure trove of information. They have all of this information for any county in the state of Ohio. And so what I did was I said, well, what does Geauga look like? They've got a projection, 2010, 2030, and this is pretty common throughout all of the areas. I compared Ashtabula, Geauga, Lake, Lorraine, Portage, and Summit. And all of this information, I will post this on the website so everybody will be able to see it. I've got some copies, but maybe not enough for everybody, but you can print them off the page. But as you can see, we're going to have an aging population. Now Geauga has, by 2030, almost 29% going to be over 65. And that's older than most. Yeah, that's the oldest. The others are 26, 27%, but Geauga, you're going to have a lot of people that are playing the back nine, as I say. We just don't know what hole we're playing. Geauga education and employment. Education. Adults 25 plus without a high school diploma. You can see that Geauga County is a well-educated county. Employment, pretty high, 81%. That's probably more than most of them. Income, poverty. 8% of the people in Geauga County live below the poverty level. Income level. You're rich compared to most of the counties I'm looking at. But you can see the decline in the median income. That is generally true in all of the counties that I looked at. It's going down. So you get the median income going down, but if you got your property taxes going up, you can see the problem. Welfare. Safety net. 3% of Geauga population on food stamps. That's low compared to the other counties that I looked at. And the cash assistance, again, still pretty low. So the well-educated, employed, aging, and not on welfare. I asked Tom to get me the range from, and they gave us 2008 versus 2017. I usually ask for, I'd like to know by every political subdivision and by taxing district. We only did it by political subdivision. That's all I could really glean out of that. And you can see the first part. Here you go. These political subdivisions: county, school districts, municipalities, and public libraries. I'll just take a look at public libraries. 2008 it was 3.1. Now they're getting 7.6. That's an increase of 4.5 million, 146. I hope everybody's going to the library and reading books because you're paying a healthy price. School districts. Again, there was a 20 million increase there. I think that's, you passed some levies, right? Just passed them in May? That's going to go up. No question about it. The school districts here, where you're paying 61%, is now 58. I think in Lake County, the real estate property taxes for schools are 68%. I think you're going to be in the same ballpark. 68% are going to your school districts. So, municipalities, again, the municipalities is only 18.5%. The county and their political subdivisions, 19.4. Here's some of the details on that county tax. They have debt service. They mentioned something development. Maybe Skip knows what that develop is. I couldn't figure out what they were really talking about here. Development, do you know anything about that, Skip?
I'm looking at the, no, that's the,
It's probably, funds that they're using, for the development within the county itself.
well, there's, no, because we've got a Department of Development, but it's under the general fund, and so I'm not sure what that developed
Okay.
line item happens to be.
All right, they've got again, your park service. Someone was asking me about the park service. It has actually gone down for that period of time. But, you're looking at total children's services have gone up, quite a bit, and that's generally true in all of the counties that I looked at.
Back up to that side, you know what that is? That's the Metzenbach facility they developed, I think.
Development, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Developmental,
Yeah, mental development.
right, right. That's a big chunk, so if you take a look at what goes into the Metzenbach facility, that's huge. The amount-
That is an audit in itself. What I tended to do, again, because of my accounting background, Tom says I talk like an accountant, so pardon me if it's too dry. But what I do is I will ask for 5 years' worth of financial statements. I then will audit each one of the nonprofits. Adams Board, they just don't like me very well there, because what I did was I take a look at their balance sheet. I determine, are they accumulating any cash? Are there any excess salaries that they're paying? And when I think of excess, they're getting 140, 150. I think that's a little pricey, for a nonprofit. And I want to see if there's profitability. The very first one that I looked at was Lake Geauga Recovery Centers. They're the ones that handle drug and alcohol abuse. And I looked at their numbers. They're 500,000 bottom line, then $1 million, then another $500,000. I said, I thought these were for the betterment of mankind. And then I saw the Crossroads. I looked at Crossroads and I said, they've got $7 million in marketable securities on their balance sheet. That's $7 million just going to sitting right there. So I said to Kim Frazier of the Adams Board, I said, listen, mental health needs some money. You're crying for money. Crossroads has got $7 million over here. Why don't we take that $7 million and why don't we give it to mental health? You thought I was, he said, well, you're crazy. We can't do that. That's their money. So this idea, when I think of nonprofits, that they're doing it for the betterment of mankind, I say hogwash. This is profit. All it is when they call them nonprofits, that just means that they can go to the government trough and continue, and they keep going back. I had a challenge with the land bank. John Rogers of the land bank, I says, why are you giving the Catholic Church $150,000 to tear down a dilapidated, they had a rectory? I said, we're not supposed to favor one religion. I mentioned that to Jerry Serrano at the commissioners meeting. And he says, Brian, you must have a problem with the Catholic Church. I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to Mass every Sunday. Church has nothing to do with it. This is about using taxpayer dollars for something that the church has got more than enough money. I contacted the Catholic Charities. I said, I want 5 years worth of financial statements. I saw they had $33 million sitting in marketable securities. I said, I wrote a letter to the Patrick Garreau, making $250,000. Yours is the guy in charge of Catholic Charities. I said, I'd like you to give $150,000 to the Lake County Council on Aging because we gave you $150,000 to tear down your convent and rectory. Oh, I can't do that. You're asking. Click. Enough of me.
Brian?
Yes.
Would you mind a commentary? Because I just came out of a meeting with...
Please do. Yeah, anytime. Yeah, I've got no problem.
Let me talk to you about what you were talking about in the library board.
You want to use the microphone?
Yeah, I didn't want to... I don't want to make a speech or anything, but let me... We just came out of a meeting...
Right there.
...with the library, or actually the president of the library. And everybody...
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but the 3 commissioners opposed the levy that was about to happen. But the law said we had to vote to approve it. We were not allowed to vote no. Ralph Spitaleri violated the law. We should have probably violated the law with him, but our attorneys advised us against it because we'd be sued and we'd cost the county a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. The building cost to build the libraries is $500 a square foot. I've got the plan. I can show it to you. They can't debate that. They want to argue and say, no, it's not true. It is true. It's in their plan. $500 a square foot. I can build the most complicated courthouse in the county for $300 a square foot. So now they've lowered that to $300 a square foot. They sold you a levy that could pay for $500 a square foot. They're going to spend $300 a square foot. So we approached them, and I'm going to keep this short. I can go on and on and on about this, but just to make a point. So we approached them and we said, okay, this is water over the dam. And so you've got a library in Bainbridge. Chesterland pays for its own library. Middlefield paid for its own library. But Bainbridge wants the county to pay for its library. Okay, so we said, okay, I mean, people voted for it. It won by a slight margin. So you've got a library. Let the county look at that library instead of tearing it down, and we'll convert it to a Department on Aging, right next to your new library that you're going to build right next to it. We'll collaborate with you. We'll evaluate it and see if in fact you need to tear it down. And if it's savable, we'll invest that. We'll collaborate with you, and it'll leverage the dollars that the taxpayers are paying. Guess what their answer to us was?
No.
So we're going to go make the case. I almost begged them, at least let us present the case to the board. So we're going to have our maintenance guy go out, take a look at the building. I'm not convinced. They were going to spend, part of their decision process said, the reason that we're going to have to tear down this building is we have to put $75,000 into carpets.
It's a nice carpet.
Do you know how much carpet you can buy for $75,000? And I said to him, I said, are you kidding me? What are you carpeting, the Astrodome? Because that's a lot of carpet, for God's sakes. And so that is the thought process a lot of these boards. Do you think they would collaborate with the Department on Aging and the county to save that building that they don't necessarily need to tear down? We're going to go through a process of trying to prove it and trying to plead the case to them. But they were very reluctant to be able to do that. That's your taxpayer dollars. And all this stuff goes on, and unfortunately the guy that's going to be coming in to replace me is going to be all on board with spending all your taxpayer dollars, I think, I predict, maybe not. But that said, that's the kind of thing that Brian's talking about. If you took a look at how much money goes into the parks, how much money goes into the Department on Aging, how much money goes into Mitzenbaum, how much money goes into, oh my God, the waste and the overlap is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
No,
but you were talking about the library, and I can give you all kinds of documentation and talk about what's going on with our libraries in Geauga County. My head's going to explode. So anyway, sorry, Brian.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Brian, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On your nonprofits,
Yes.
how are you getting financial information from?
There is some of them gave me the information, but you can also find it on guidestar.org. It's a website where you can find the financial information of nonprofits. Guidestar.org.
Yeah, because I tried to get Western Reserve Land Conservancies. I couldn't find any place. They get taxpayer money from grants from the state of Ohio. And just in Geauga County, in 2010, they got like $23 million to buy land.
I'd go to the commissioner and say, I want this information. I would keep going back.
You can't do it. It's a private 501c.
501c3, and you can't get information from them.
That's right. And they're not under the commissioners. The West Reserve Land Conservancy is a completely separate 501c.
Right, but apparently they got a law that they help legislators, they lobbied, and they can get our tax money to buy property in Geauga County. It takes it off our tax roll. So those are the schemes that go on with this. Land Bank does the same thing.
And the directors paid $350,000 a year for the shenanigans.
Right, and they're nonprofits, these guys are making $200,000, $300,000.
So can I suggest what we do is we continue with what Brian has, and then I think those are the action items. You know, we'll try and get, I'm gonna.
I just wouldn't accept it. I wouldn't roll over. A lot of these places, they said, for example, the Adams Board, Kim Fraser says, I thought she was a 501, I didn't realize they were part of the government. I thought they were 501c3s. And she said, I'm not a 501c3, sorry, I can't give you what you need. So she thought I was just going to roll over and, you know, go away. No, what you have to have is the tenacity to go after these people. And don't stop.
Thanks.
Here's an important concept. I found this on this sort of put it all together for me. This was on the Center of Community Solutions, called the Housing Affordability Threshold. Take three factors if you own a house: mortgage if you still have one, utilities, and your real estate property taxes. You add all three together. If that number is 30% of your annual income, that house is deemed unaffordable for you. Now that doesn't mean that you have to move. It just means you're going to have less disposable income. Maybe you don't eat every day. Maybe you don't turn on the air conditioning. Maybe you don't go on those vacations. You don't buy the presents for the grandkids. But that is a solid factor, and I use that in my research. Now, if you're a renter, that it is just your utilities and your monthly rent that you would use in those factors. What I found out in Lake County, I don't have the numbers for Geauga County, but approximately 27% of the people in Lake County that own their homes pay more than 30%. 55% of the people that rent in Lake County pay more than 30%. And that's now. What happens in the next 12 years? I'm going to try to do some studies to try to project what does that mean as the population ages, how many people are going to be thrown into the unaffordability factor. Found this out, everybody probably knows about this case, but maybe have forgotten about it. In 1991, the Ohio Supreme Court deemed that the method of funding of public schools was deemed unconstitutional. Now that was good, but nobody did anything. They didn't have any solutions. Well, what are we going to do next? So what they did was the court, after a while, just kicked it back to the legislative branch, and legislative branch just, threw some more money at the problem. But it's still unconstitutional. So they were relying too heavily on property taxes for funding. It's another important slide. I didn't make that up. I just recreated that. I got this blue book from the CFO of Riverside High School. I went to the Riverside High School and I said, I gotta know something about these property taxes. Something is wrong. So this was written by a PhD, Robert Stabile, and I guess this is written just about every year. They update it. But it's a treasure trove of information for me. And here's what happens. And this is what I told everybody, that the way that we're funding schools is unsustainable. Now, why is that? You can see that the expenditures, now whether those expenditures are due to inflation, building buildings, or paying teachers, or buying books, it's irrelevant. When you're on fixed income, it's irrelevant because this is going to keep going up. So what they do is they start with, they say we need money. So they get a sum of money from the taxpayers, and that money is good, like Levy 1, Levy 1, all of a sudden their expenditures are saying, I'm paying more than 80% or 85% of my teachers, I got to go back for more money. So they get another lump sum of money, and they're good for 3, 4, 5 years, maybe if you're lucky, but the expenditures keep going up. It never goes down. So when I saw that, I said, what happens if I add the housing affordability threshold? Everybody's got an annual income. Whether you're working, you're retired, everybody's got an annual income. Here's that 30% housing affordability threshold. When they say, I want you to pass this tax, it's only going to cost you $100 a year, right? I say, you've got to divide that $100 by 0.3. It's really going to cost you $333. Because what happens, if that annual income does not go up by $333, you are going to be that much closer to the 30% factor. No question about it. So, what happens? I was talking to some people before the meeting started. They said 5 people. Was that right, Tom? 5 people in your neighborhood out of 18? And they left because of taxes. And what period of time was that, Tom? In a 5-year period. 5 out of his 18 neighbors had to leave their home that they worked all their lives to achieve because of their property taxes, they couldn't afford it. I think that's a real serious problem.
Brian, let me bring one other up that is a hidden rot that nobody in this room knows about.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mike mentioned the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. The Western Reserve Land Conservancy is putting easements on property. You're starting to see signs pop up all over the county. That's destroying private property rights. When you put a conservancy easement on a property, you're buying the rights to that property. The value of that property goes down. When the value of that property goes down, then the property tax goes down, and the rest of us have to absorb the difference in that property tax, and you don't even see it. There's not been a levy, there's no tax increase, it's an automatic transfer of wealth because you've got the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. You don't believe me? Go to Bloomfield in Trumbull County. The trustees there said that they have completely destroyed their income. They have no income to take care of the roads, they have no income to take care of anything because they've completely destroyed any revenue coming off of property tax because there is no property.
And Skip, that's the type of information we have got to get back to the individual taxpayers. Because that's invaluable. We've got to continue to educate our neighbors. Someone was telling me that he thinks the schools are, they're scheming, and I said, yeah, they probably are. I found out in the Black Book that they keep track. Our Department of Education maintains school election results. So they figure out what's the best time, what's the best type of levy to pass. And then what they'll do is they'll get all the moms and dads that, are really into the school. They'll say, and we're going to do it on an off year or off time. We want you to, get everybody that's engaged in the school, and we won't put any signs out to tell everybody that they're voting. And the general apathy of the people probably passes. But there is a definite scheme of what type of levy. And the other thing is what I see in Lake County, and I've been trying to tell people, if you see something on there that says continuous, do you know what continuous means? That means forever. They're not coming back to you. We were really ranting and raving at the Concord Township trustees. I said, how dare you put a continuous levy on? Well, the people voted for it. People don't even know. They don't know. They don't even know what our freedoms are. They just live their life. They just go on. Additional funding from the state of Ohio. Remember the lottery? That was supposed to take care of everything, right? But what I found out was the money came from the lottery, but something else leaked out the bottom and it went somewhere else. So there was no addition. It was just a different source. So they'll come up with, I've been looking, they've got 11.2, 11.3, billion dollars. And there's also, you get some federal funds, you got, the state, and then you've got your local taxes. When I saw all the money, I said, well, I wonder what our return on investment, because every time they've talked about passing a levy, they say, you've got to pass it for the kids in the schools, and you're also going to, if you don't pass it, your property taxes are going to go down, your property values are going to go down. And I said, well, what happened in 2008 when I lost 25% of my value of my home? The schools didn't have anything to do with it. That's when I came up with the realization, it's not if you have good schools, it's the perception if your schools are good. State, local, federal, this was in 2017. There's if you want to get an exercise looking at the CUP reports, they're all online. I have to say they're transparent, but you have to have the tenacity to be able to go into a CUP report, which is an Excel spreadsheet that's 607 lines for every school district. It's about 40 or 50 columns across, solid numbers. You have to have the ability to look at that, well, what kind of number do I really want? It takes a while to do that, but the numbers are there. And Tom, that's where the accountant in me comes in. I said, let me have it. So we spent $24.1 billion in state, local, and federal. I went to the State Board of Education, and they produce a lot of information, but you have to have the tenacity. I went to all 607 school districts, and I found out the achievement score. Those are the tests that the kids take every year, and that's one of multiple grades that they get. But I took that because that was the test that is the measurement, supposedly, of how that school is performing. So I posted all 607. If they got an A, I give them a 4. If they got an F, they got 0. So the average, 1.55. 607 school districts. 13 schools got an A. They spent $14,187 per student. 20 schools earned an F. They spent almost $20,000. I had a meeting with the state representatives to our school board, and I was saying, what's with the 1.55? Pay no attention to that. They don't mean anything. I said, well, why are we spending the money to keep track of that then? Let's just forget it all and give everybody a trophy and we'll call it a day. What I was told is, I said, what's the difference on those 20 schools and the 13 that got the A's? They said poverty. I said, well, we spent $20,000. If we spent 40, could they get a D? No. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the destruction of the family. As I said in this room months ago, when you destroy the family, babies, and morality, a society will collapse. And that's what we are experiencing. Total number of students, 1.7 million. I've got another slide that shows you Georgia has got 1.7 million. I'll show you the difference. State average spend is about $6,600. One interesting thing I noticed on the federal budget, the federal government gives us money to the state, almost $685 million in the food program. We can't even feed our kids anymore? We've got to rely on the state to feed our kids? Number of educators, 240,000. We have 3,500 schools in the state of Ohio. Geauga County, your return on investment. Numbers I didn't put up there, I should tell you that I did calculate it. you spent, in 2007, about $123 million. And in 2017, you spent $160 million. So it's $37 million, about 30% more in the year, in the time frame. But Kenston, well, whoever's going to Kenston, they're one of the few producers. They got a B. Spent, $15,000. The average for the state was a little over $14,000. But the rest, Newberry. I'd think about closing that school up. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. But, So the overall average was 1.67. That's what you got for your money. The enrollment. You spent $30 million, $37 million, $37 million more for 2,000 less students. And again, if it's just inflation, the senior on fixed income doesn't care. It's unsustainable. Oops. I have met with not only property taxes, but because property taxes was such a large factor, 68%, I then started to look into schools. Been meeting with as many people as I can. I went to Riverside School. I met with their group. I've met with the state representatives. Sarah Fowler has been absolutely brilliant. Really a young lady that's quite an asset for us. Lisa Woods and a couple others. We met with them. And this is what I gleaned out of what they were telling me. The state, this socialistic state that we've got going, they preach equality of opportunity. But what they are really striving for is equality of outcome. The reason what I was told is the mentality is we want everybody, and they gave me this analogy, I didn't make it up. We want everybody to dunk a basketball. So how do we do that? We keep lowering the rim. That means a dumbing down of the children. I think that's a very dangerous precedent. The other thing that bothers me is cradle to career. The trend is to get the state more involved at preschool level, college courses for high school students. This is I'm reading more and more. There's a book I'm reading. I was going to go down to talk to a lady that's in charge of the school board down in Columbus, and I was told by Sarah, said, "Brian, don't go. You're not ready yet." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "It'd be like a lamb going into a den of wolves." So she said, "You need to get more education." She mentioned a lady by the name of B.K. Eekman. So I went and got a book, Pushback. It tells of what's happening. And it basically is Christianity is under attack and has been for a long time. Accumulation of data on children, implicit association tests. You can find this online, association test. I took one. A lot of it is behavioral modification. What they want to do is they've determined they can determine the subconscious of what goes through the child's mind. And it is, I think it's very, very dangerous. But you need to look that up. Implicit association test. Social emotional learning, SEL. If you don't know about that, you need to find out about that. All right? And what they're all about. And this is starting with the kindergartners, pre-K. Control attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs. Now, they may say I'm going to control their attitude, their skills, but it is all computerized, and ultimately, we truly believe that they're going after the belief system. They're taking away the parental rights. Very dangerous. My opinion, we need to return the control of children to their parents, offer greater choices of education, stop these unfunded mandates. That's almost as scary to me as the property taxes. State support of education, as we said before, mandates that it should be thorough and efficient. DeRolf changed it to adequate and equitable. So what they want to be able to do is redistribution of the wealth, is really what it is. Basic funding right now in 2018 was $6,010. The state gives, saying we're going to give $6,010 to every student. But the problem is they will then take a look at the wealth of the district. Riverside, for example, they get $1,300, I believe, $1,300 per student because it, quote, is a wealthy district. I'm sure Geauga County is probably the same thing. They've developed a very complex formula to redistribute the wealth. And it, without computers, they probably wouldn't be able to do it, but they keep refining it and refining it and refining it. There's other possible, financing options, different kind of tax, increased state income tax, state funding through schools. There is a basic question, though. I went to a meeting with Americans for Prosperity. The gentleman started the meeting with, now, he makes the assumption that everybody agrees, right, that it is our obligation to pay the education for the next generation.
No.
That's sort of a given.
No.
That's what he said. And I thought about that and I said, well, if they're trying to promote a Marxist philosophy in the schools, I'm not paying for that. I don't want to pay for that. I would rather have the schools compete for the students. So if we're going to distribute any money, let's give $6,000 to each parent for each child. You decide where you want to send your kids. So this days of the brick and mortar, I think, is going to have to change. But I would like the parents to be able to say, what are you going to teach my kids? Right? Are you going to teach them about transgender? You're going to teach first graders to say that they don't have to be a boy or a girl? They can't even process that? It is giving the control back to the parents. College Credit Plus program, I'll just talk very briefly about this. I've been trying to figure out, there are other items that are costing us money that we probably don't even know about it. But you can send your child to Lakeland Community College or any college he wants, and your local school will have to pay for it. And I said, well, when did we vote on that we're paying for college education now? Well, you didn't. It was mandated by the state. And I found out that the base rate at Lakeland Community College, they're on my radar too. They were charging $41 per credit hour, and the rates went up if the child had a professor and they used the school facilities. But then I found out that the Lakeland, in their wisdom, they increased the rate from $41 to $82. I said, well, why did you increase that? Well, we're not as high as we used to be under the old program. I said, why'd you? They increase it because they can. They care nothing about the taxpayer. Lakeland Community College, no, I don't think Geauga County pays into it, but in Lake County, in that 10-year period that I was measuring, they went from $10 million to $20 million from Lake County taxpayers. And then I found out, I got their balance sheet and I saw this unfunded pension liability. They had something like $90 million on their balance sheet, and then they were upside down on their section and like $66 million. So I sent a letter to the Morris Beverage. I sent an email to their accountants. I sent an email to Dave Yost, the auditor of the state, no comment. And I said, if I'm looking at this balance sheet, am I to think that there's an unfunded pension liability here? No comment. I mentioned that to the commissioner's office. Well, Mr. Massie, you don't understand. There's more. I said, listen, if it's on your balance sheet, the state is saying that you owe it. Pay attention to that. because they're going to come back to you. Dave Joyce sent out an email. I don't know if anybody got it, but they were saying that there's unfunded liabilities all throughout. Who is looking out for us? Yes. 15 minutes, I'm sorry. This is just the rates. They're going up. They have no conscience. I mentioned about unfunded liabilities. Here's Georgia. Remember I said they've got 1.7 million students? Take a look at this. Public school districts. We've got 610. They've got 180. How many extra administrators do you think we have in our school system? Total revenue. We're spending this includes the charter schools too. By the way, public schools with that 1.55, charter schools, the grade point average was 0.47. Failure. We spent $1 billion. So increase of 54%. Something is wrong in the Ohio public schools. Georgia cares about the senior. If you're 70 years of age, you're exempted from school taxes and maintain an exemption of $10,000 on county levies. I think they may have it right. How do we do that for Ohio? Put this in there, believe it or not, this is one of the government's solution when they price you out of your home. Oh, wait a minute. 192 square feet. Or they'll put us in Section 8 housing. It'll be nice and new. It'll be Section 8 housing.
Stack them and pack for 6 months.
So what do we do now? Lake County voters, that's what I said, that nothing should happen in Lake County, and I'm sure it's the same thing in Geauga County. If I went to the Board of Elections here in Geauga County, I'd get the same thing. We could analyze that. Seniors, you've got to speak up. You're a voting bloc. You've got to put the fear of God in these politicians to say, I want you to start thinking about us. Create a group of lobbyists. You've already got a group. But band together. Let's make sure the American dream of home ownership and private property does not die. That is one of the goals of the socialists and the communists that are coming after us. I remember years ago when I mentioned, it's a communist. I think, oh, Brian, you're nuts. Tinfoil hat. No. If we're united rather than being divided, we can make a difference. First, you have to decide what kind of country you want to leave for the next generation. When I see all my friends are on vacation, I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, you're not worried about it. You're taking from the country. What are you giving back? Remember, John F. Kennedy's statement is true. Citizenship of a constitutional republic or a global citizen in a secular, socialist swamp like those of Europe or Venezuela. Europe is going down. No question about it. You won't even recognize it. They'll probably have some type of war. And that's basically because they've turned their back on God. They've closed down all their churches. God has handed them over to the world.
But don't forget, they've opened up the mosques.
Yes. As Benjamin Franklin said, when asked, what have they given us? And they gave us a republic, if we can keep it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We're going to try and have some questions, and I'm going to try and use the microphone as well so I don't not get feedback. But the whole purpose of this is now what Brian was saying, we have to drive to action. So each one of us, I think it's really reasonable to ask that we are that lobby group, we are the citizen lobbyists, that's why we're here. And to work, as we showed earlier, that Tom Z put those numbers together, we have a value proposition. And I know that our friends, the Jones, show up every Tuesday at the commissioner meeting, videotape, make notes, send out articles and all of that. But at the same time, we need to be talking to our neighbors and coming up with ideas. That the first place that I always make comment when you guys or the other members that were at the January meeting elected me as president of the Tea Party, I said that the first place that we need to be looking at vetting and developing candidates is for the school board. School boards are a mess. And find those young folks, find those interested people, please. Because the only way we're going to start making some of these financial changes is to reach out to those neighbors, to those young people, help develop them constitutionally, and understanding what good government is about and how schools should really function. And then we get them elected. We work our backsides off to get them in the school board to fight for what's right. From the books that are in there to what it's going to really take to educate the children appropriately. Then we got to support Sarah Fowler and keep her exactly where she is so she could fight at the state level. And then we have to watch in the dark of the night because they're going to try and get the Kasich plan in place and take the authority of our school boards away from us. That's what he's working on, and that's that, what is that, the 512?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, 512. So that's not gone away. It's slowed down, it's suppressed for now, but it's not gone away. So we have a lot of opportunities to do things, and as I always say, each of us has our different passions. We have those different areas of interest, but I encourage us to look at what Brian has been building as lobbyists for citizens, and we're going to tie that in to other groups to work together. You know what? Join on his website. He's putting information that is going to be growing across all the different counties. And your website is?
Lobbyistforcitizens.com.
Okay, very simple. So let's take and be who we're trying to be. It's not just Tea Party. It may be we might want to look at a new name. Maybe we want to call all of the different citizens group Geauga counties, what?
Liberty
Lobbyists for Citizens or Liberty Coalition or something that takes and makes it a block of action. A block of action. So those are some things to think about. Question, yes, sir. Let's see if I can get that. And we don't.
Do you think our liberty can be restored without abolishing the public schools? You mentioned the relation between the public schools and Marxism. The public schools are the 10th plank of the Communist Manifesto, which not enough people know.
Right. I've been given many gifts. Gift of prophecy is not one. I am really concerned, truly concerned, that the left will not let us do what is right. They will, I mean, we could be looking at civil war. There's no question about it. I just hope, it's not too far down the line because I want to participate. But they won't give up without a fight. What we are seeing, right now is one thing that another thing that I did learn. I said, well, how do all these leftists, how do they continue to get in the programs? Well, they are. When you are applying for a job, whether it's with the FBI, what they do is they can weed out those that don't have the liberal thought process. Mm-hmm. If you're conservative minded, you won't get in if you answer the questions honestly. And I remember reading an article that said if you want to get into the FBI, you better think like a liberal. The same thing is true with the schools. I've got many of my family members, extended family members that are teachers. Every one of them is a liberal. Every one of them is a liberal. And what has happened is that the communists realized that in order to get hold of the children, they got hold of the teachers and all of these teaching schools that they've infiltrated that. And it's going to take a long time. This didn't happen, in Obama. I mean, this is going back decades and decades, 100 years probably. But it has accelerated. You can see the acceleration in Europe as they keep, losing all of their liberties. That will manifest itself, in my opinion, here. And what we have to do is, that this book says, push back. I don't want to say I don't care, but I am going to express myself. I will not just sit there and say, well, okay, I guess it's all right. No, we have to truly push back if we believe that we want to save our country for our grandchildren. Dave, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a difficult task we have.
So one of the challenges that I'll add on with that is that I would ask, because I've tried, and Kathy will tell you, there's been some churches that we've been asked to leave because going in and talking to the pastoral staff to try and get them to understand and say, look, you know what, if you have a hard time understanding or wanting to do anything or talk about founders' principles or even preach a sermon that our founders preach, why don't you reference people to the likes of myself? And let us take and do some things within the congregation to help people that want to know, learn. So I would encourage each and every one of us that if you have access to your pastors, if you have access to your church leadership, your elders and that, have a conversation with them and talk to them about how you can bring in my seminar or things from other locations and that we can help the people continue to be educated so that, you know what, our country started from within the idea of the first Great Awakening. What happened in the churches is what set the foothold to understand liberty. And from that point on, you can read that and research it, and I talk about it often. But I encourage you to do that as well. So we have a lot of work to do. But with this, and to finish up, one more question, and then we have to call it an evening. Dick, you're going to have to come up to the microphone.
Talk this week. What effect do the illegal aliens have on us in Lake and Geauga County, and is it going to get worse?
Yes.
Thank you for asking that. I really do appreciate
It goes
it.
another hour, Dick.
Thank you very much.
Okay. On the CUP reports,
3 minutes.
okay, I'm talking. On the CUP reports, they give, there's a column on there that talks about the percentage of students that do not speak English. They don't say what language, but automatically assume Spanish. I did a calculation that for Lake County, for 1 year, it was $14.6 million that it cost Lake County taxpayers to educate non-English speaking pupils. I don't know what that number is for Geauga. I don't think you had as many. I think it may be in the $1 million range, but it is going to cost you something. What is happening with, in my opinion, with the illegal aliens, and I've mentioned this at the Liberator Conference, the Democrats have got voters, that's what they want. The Chamber of Commerce, they got the cheap labor. The churches, and I'll tell you about my story about my Catholic church, they've got more members, and so they got more money coming into the plate. And what has happened, they have all benefited, and they've got more money in their pockets, but they have left the cost of education and the social welfare cost to us. That is another factor that is impacting your property taxes and will continue. I wrote a letter to the editor to the News Herald. It was published about, I said, illegal aliens, and I said in basically the same thing that I just mentioned. I was at Mass one Sunday, and the priest got up and he says, somebody wrote a letter on illegal aliens. I inferred he was not calling me a good Christian. I told my wife, I says, if he mentions my name, I'm going up to that pulpit there and I'm going to call him a false prophet. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to stand up. Whether it's your priest or your minister, if they're trying to tell you something, if you're a Bible believer, and they're telling you something that is not based on the Bible, call them out and no longer attend their services. If that is what you believe. If you don't believe it, then it's irrelevant to you. But I told you, as I immersed myself in the Constitution and in the Bible, my goal was to find the truth. And I found the truth in God's Word. Now, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to let somebody tell me what is false and I am not going to do anything about it? That's not what we're supposed to do. All right, I'll shut up.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you all for being here. For the June meeting, I'll get that out on the newsletter, when the exact date. We're going to try and make it on a Tuesday in June, the third week, because there's been all sorts of crazy stuff with the scheduling here. So we're going to try and get that set up on that schedule. Skip will be the speaker. As I said, we're going to be talking about NOACA and our property rights, which ties into all of this. And Skip, you got anything else to say on that? Because it's going to be your show next month.
Yeah, no. I don't have anything to say on that, but I do have something for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, go for it.
And Bobby, I want you to cancel
Turn
the
off the
recording.
camera. Yeah.
Wait.